Okay, so I did this video, I don't know, a week ago, I guess. And you know, some people don't really have anything to say, so they'll just yap. So let's go look at the comments. Also, before we do that, I'd like to note that we're down to 85%. 85% of people that watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. You got your phone in your hand, you got your laptop, click the button and we'll move along. So let's move along to the comments. Only been reported 100 times in the last month. Way to stay current. Ha ha ha. Y user. Well, Mr. Y user, let's go look at your channel. See what we're up to. Created a playlist. View the full playlist. Looks like there's several of them there. Let's view it. Playlist, one video. Badass Russian jet pilot. I'll play that, but I'd likely get a strike. But yeah, that's where we're at with Mr. Y user. So yeah, thanks for the comment. This always takes forever. For some reason, this wants to take all day. There we go. Which was the bigger criminal, the man with the drugs or the deputy that stole those drugs, then transported them to the sheriff's office where he proceeded to overdose on those drugs? Correct. One thing that Dominique Izzo said on his channel I highly agree with is that, yes, I watched Dominique. You got to appreciate Dominique to appreciate Dominique. I'll agree with is that recruits should already have a few years working as correction officers before they become a beat cop. Those officers are more used to using their words to tone down the situation around them because they are one to sometimes 200 inmates without a sidearm. He also recommended a prior field of customer service and bare minimum 30 years of age before a recruit can enter the academy. Izzo was kind of hardcore. He is kind of hardcore. You got to take him with like 400 grains of salt, where you have to have thick skin for him. As far as Mr. Morales, did he not watch the news and see the average fentanyl dose these days is more potent than what it used to be? This video was featured in Barry Cooper's last live chat. He found it disturbing. He arrested people for this. Izzo and Cooper are the two other ex-cops I follow. There is supposed to be a live with Barry and Rick. So yeah, Rick's been saying he's going to be doing lives with others, and then nothing ever comes of it. But yes, I would agree. Corrections first and 30. My husband was, like I said, he was in the Marine Corps for 10 years. He was in law enforcement for 10 years, and then he worked for the Department of Corrections. And you learn pretty quickly in the Department of Corrections. The fun thing with the Department of Corrections was when he went to work there, he would be walking around and looking and, you know, like you do as a corrections officer. And someone would call out his name. Hey, Officer Odom. He'd turn around and look. He's like, hey, remember you arrested me like 3 years ago? There was a bunch of them in there. But see, back then, the arrests weren't like they are now. It was a different time back then. Usually, when people were arrested, they were arrested for reason. And they knew the reason. And they went in and they did their time and they were done with it. Anyway, Mr. Way to stay current. The video that I have now it started in, I don't know, about 10 months ago. And it goes up to, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago. So if you don't like that, you can go somewhere else too. So this is where we're at with Highland Park again. Sound familiar? Yes, Highland Park. We're in the Detroit area. a dumpster fire masquerading as a city, but here we are, and let's see what we're up to now.
One by one, the 7 investigators have revealed how police officers with checkered pasts have been able to avoid accountability. Some finding a second or third act in the new departments just down the road. It's not supposed to work that way, but as 7 investigator Ross Jones has been showing us for months now, it is happening far too often. Well, tonight, his latest example, how one police department covered up an officer's misconduct, allowing him to do it again with horrifying consequences.
They say history doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes it...
No, they say those who don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. That's what they say.
Rhymes.
The incident was similar. It involved a taser, it involved excessive force.
This is the story of how one police department's decision to keep an officer's misconduct quiet
You gonna hit me with the dump? Are you gonna tase me too?
allowed him to inflict even more pain just down the road.
Open the door, you get tased. Open the door, you get tased.
It cost taxpayers a fortune,
I've never had a single case resolve this quick.
triggered criminal charges,
For the record, could you state your name?
Dammeon, player.
and showed how ignoring police misconduct only makes it worse.
Boss man, you gotta bounce.
On a rainy afternoon in May of 2020, Highland Park Public Safety Officer Dammeon Player is called to the
Public safety officer. Please stop calling them that. They're thugs. That's all they are.
Burger King along Woodward Avenue. He's working a police shift on this day, responding to a call of a man loitering outside the restaurant.
Man, what part of leave do you not understand?
The man, who police would later suspect was homeless, ignored the officer's commands. So, from the front seat of his police car, Officer Player does what department policy says he shouldn't. He pulls out his taser and takes aim.
Why? Because usually there's no repercussions for that.
You wanna tase?
The taser didn't take effect, so Player gets out of his vehicle and begins following the man, who starts to cross the street while hurling expletives.
Know why I say the police? Cause of you. Come on.
Again, thick skin. If you do not have thick skin, this is not the job for you. Like I said before, I wish I had a nickel every time my husband came home and said, yeah, 4 more people threatened to whip my ass if I just take that badge and gun off. And they're under the impression that if you take the badge and the gun off, you're not still a law enforcement officer. I'm just saying.
Come over here and do my face.
Before long, Officer Player joins in with name-calling of his own, at one point calling the man a homophobic slur.
Go on about your business, sissy.
Also, can we note that the man is walking away and the cop is following? Escalate and retaliate. That's all they're good for. Now, this guy's going to say some stuff that he don't like, but let's pay close attention to what the cop says back. I'll F your something and your mom.
Your child.
And the cop says, I'll F your child. That one, there is something mentally wrong with him. They need to take that badge. He needs to be, further investigated just for that comment, and in prison for what he does.
After trading insults, both men appear to walk away. But just as it seems things are coming to an end, Officer Player turns around and follows the man again.
Why? Escalate and retaliate.
He briefly assumes a fighting stance before turning around and walking away. Then watch this. With the man's back facing the officer, Player deploys his taser again.
And I want you to pay particular attention to where, when this man falls, watch his head, the way his head falls. That should be a clue that something critical has happened. Something serious, anyway.
Then takes the man to the ground.
Now stay down.
Watch the video again. As Player takes the man down, he strikes his head hard on a concrete building, then lays motionless on the wet
Also, I don't know what that glitch was about.
pavement.
Don't believe that. Taser deployed.
The man appears unconscious, even as Player tries to wake him.
Yo. Wake up, man.
What does it say to you that Officer Player tased the man while he had his back?
Also, here's the standards. Fat and don't shave. They don't give a shit. They look like shit. They act like shit. I don't care what he's going to say. This is the standard.
Back to him.
In this case, it wasn't appropriate. the taser should not have been utilized in that instant.
James McMahon was a sergeant with Highland Park PD at the time of the incident.
It's a scary situation. Someone just hit their head. It's not a situation where we should have been involved in that. It's disappointing. I mean, that individual didn't deserve that.
The man would eventually
That whole damn department needs to be looked into.
regain consciousness and was taken by ambulance to a hospital. An internal affairs investigation concluded that Officer Player violated the department's code of conduct and taser policy.
Was Officer Player disciplined for this?
Other than removed from police services, no. The legal department just removed him from police services but allowed him to work fire department.
Removed him from police services and allowed him to work at the damn fire department. That's where we're at. No accountability.
So the solution to this misconduct was to take a police officer and turn him into a full-time firefighter.
Correct.
Correct.
McMahon says Player's discipline was handled by then City Attorney Terry Ford, who, he said, pushed to suspend, not terminate Player, and remove him from the police services in Highland Park.
Suspend, not terminate. He should be terminated and brought up on charges.
And, he said, Player got one more break, too.
Was this referred to the prosecutor?
It was not.
Should it have been?
It would be today. Next police officer.
Again, that wasn't the question. The question was, should it have been? Absolutely it should have been.
Dammeon, Player.
The following year, Officer Player would join the Warren Police Department. And they
The Warren Police Department. Well, surely they knew about his background, his trouble, right? They did not.
to pin his new badge to his chest was then Highland Park Police Chief Kevin Coney.
Highland Park Police Chief. The department he just came from. The chief didn't look into the file, even though the file says one thing. There would be some type of information in that file of what he did.
I could represent the city well, my family well.
But less than 2 years later,
Open the door, you get tased.
Remember, those who don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. Here we go, 2 years later.
Open the door now, you get tased.
Officer Player and his partner would be involved in this traffic stop, pulling this truck driver out of his vehicle. His partner threw him to the ground in the rain.
Now, they pulled him out of the vehicle because he is trying to back into a loading dock, and for a minute or two, he's blocking traffic, trying to back this big-ass semi with a trailer on it into the loading dock. He won't have no part of it.
As Player tased him repeatedly. Making matters worse, it all happened in centerline, outside of the officer's jurisdiction.
Where's his... Does he have an extended territorial jurisdiction? Like when my husband worked in Surf City, they had, I think it was a mile. It could have been a mile and a half, but... And that was only if they were chasing somebody. You could go... It was, I want to say a mile outside of your jurisdiction. It's an extended territorial jurisdiction, but you need to be on the radio letting somebody know that you're coming into their area and have them there ready to finish up what you're into.
The man was charged with nothing, but the officer's conduct was so egregious that the city of Warren paid out a $400,000 settlement.
He said taxpayers incorrectly. The taxpayers paid out $400,000.
Barely a month later, Player and his partner were charged with assault and then fired.
From what I know about Dammeon Player, he's not a bad police officer.
Kevin Coney told us he didn't remember almost anything about Dammeon Player's tasing in
How convenient.
Highland Park, even though that's Coney responding to the scene that day where Player told him this.
Well, I ain't gonna lie, right? My heart stopped when I thought you were there.
Coney was fire chief at the time and would be appointed police chief weeks later.
You can't... That's why you can't get rid of these fucking people. They're from one agency to the next. They're fire. They're police. They're police. They're fire. No, they need to be gone. Completely gone.
July memo about Player's misconduct said he dangerously escalated the situation, causing injury to the subject of the investigation. These actions could place the city in a position of civil jeopardy and should not be brushed aside lightly, the memo said. It was made out to Kevin Coney.
You were aware of it.
Okay, that's what you say.
Your name's on the memo.
Okay, that don't mean that I knew about it was in his personnel file.
Do you read your memos?
Your name was on it, but you don't know anything about it. Who's surprised about that, please? This is another completely needs to go.
Sometimes I do.
It recommended a 30-day suspension for player and training.
Oh, look, de-escalation course and implicit bias training in the virtual academy. So don't even have to just do it in your house. Just click that you did it and you'll be done. It's total bullshit.
In de-escalation techniques, but we couldn't find evidence he received either.
Because he didn't.
The memo was never shared with Warren PD when they came to review players' personnel file. And according to their background investigation, Chief Coney gave his officer a clean bill of health. He had no...
That should be completely illegal. That should be illegal. Because when you fill out the application to go into basic law enforcement training, you say all the information in there is correct to the best of your knowledge. Under penalty of perjury, you're signing this. I don't know how these officers' personnel file don't say the same thing. If they don't, they should.
No issues with player, an investigator wrote, and there was no discipline in his file. In fact, when player left Highland Park PD, Chief Coney reported he departed in good
Another lie.
standing.
3 years later, he was criminally charged over the very same type of conduct that Highland Park helped to conceal.
Highland Park don't keep it. Okay.
They absolutely concealed it. They said he left in good standing. They absolutely concealed it. And this one, look into his background. There's something shady going on with him. He is completely covering for all of them.
That's your word. It just wasn't dealt with.
It was never
That's not his word. It's in the personnel file, and it was never shared with the other department.
shared with the department that hired him.
Okay.
Dammeon Player and his partner are next due in court on July 11th. Player faces 2 felonies and up to 5 years in prison.
If this had been done correctly in Highland Park, does Dammeon Player get a chance to assault a man with the Warren Police Department?
Not likely.
Well, in a statement, Warren Police told me they would have never hired Dammeon Player had they known what we just revealed. Kevin Coney left Highland Park in 2021. He insists today that while he was chief, he was really just a figurehead who answered to then City Attorney Terry Ford.
No, you're the chief of police, and you're there to do a job. If you're the chief of police and you don't know what your job is, please go to fuck on somewhere else.
Ford did not return our repeated calls, texts, and emails seeking comment. James McMahon is now the chief in Highland Park, appointed by new Mayor Glenda McDonald last year. To her credit, Mayor McDonald overruled her own attorney's advice and released the body cam video we just showed you. Both Mayor McDonald and Chief McMahon say that the video is ugly, but that citizens deserved to see it. And I think that's a very important step here. They say they're a much more transparent department. They're holding officers accountable. This is a good demonstration.
Who's a much more transparent department? The department that said they wouldn't have hired him had they have known? Seems like you might have questioned some people that, I don't know, he worked with. Kind of part of the whole application process.
That's the case, but obviously this was an ugly scene that was kept hidden from his next department.
And so the next step you just mentioned for Player?
He's facing a number of felonies, as is his partner. They're going to be back in court in July, and we'll see what happens with that.
We'll see what
But
happens.
this all could have been avoided, Warren says, if we had just known about it. We wouldn't have hired him. He wouldn't have been in that position to do what he's accused of.
Well, the more you bring it to light, hopefully things will change and chiefs will be more transparent and accountable for what their officers do in the public.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you, Ross, as always, for your good work.
Thank you, Ross. So, they said July. This is from May 16th, 2024, and this is from March of 2025. Let's see where we're at.
Topping our news at 5:30, a 7 News Detroit investigation has triggered criminal charges against a former Highland Park police officer, a direct result of reporting by 7 investigator Ross Jones. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mike Duffy.
And I'm Glenda Lewis. The felony charges stem from alleged misconduct that Highland Park officers kept quiet. It allowed the officer to join a new department where he's now facing another slew of criminal charges. Here's 7 investigator Ross Jones.
Case number 2500211, Dammeon player.
Dammeon Player left the Highland Park Police Department years ago, but today, inside 30th District Court, his past came back to haunt him.
The incident that Mr. Player is charged with stems from when he was employed at the Highland Park Police Department.
Player was charged today with assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder, assault with a dangerous weapon, and common law offenses, all over alleged misconduct that we first revealed that his former department kept hidden.
Boss man, you gotta bounce.
It was April of 2020 when then Officer Player came into contact with a homeless man loitering outside of a Burger King. The man would not comply with a request to leave the restaurant, so from his police vehicle, Player would try to tase him.
So what they're saying is this started in April of 2020. May of 2024 was the video that I just showed you, and we're at 2025, 5 years later.
It didn't work, so Player got out of his vehicle and the two engaged in a back and forth. But when the man eventually does appear to leave, Player is seen following him. And with the man's back turned to him, Player fires his taser again, then takes the man to the ground.
Now stay down.
Video shows the man's head strikes a concrete wall hard, and he appears to lay unconscious as Player tries to wake him. The man, who would be later taken to a hospital, would be charged with nothing.
Yo, wake up, man.
It's a scary situation. Someone just hit their head. It's not a situation where we should have been involved in that. It's disappointing. I mean, that individual didn't deserve that.
James McMahon was a sergeant back in 2020 and said Player's use of force warranted discipline and possible criminal charges, but that the chief at the time did not forward the case to Wayne County's prosecutor. Instead, he said Player was made a full-time firefighter with Highland Park, and later on, when another police department wanted to hire him, the city never disclosed Player's use of the taser, only reporting that he left the department in good standing.
Ex-police officer Dammeon Player.
By keeping it all quiet, Player was able to join the Warren Police, and 2 years later...
Open the door now, you get paid. Open the door now.
This was Officer Player pulling his taser on a truck driver trying to back his semi into a loading dock and briefly blocking traffic. When the driver was uncooperative, he would be pulled out of his truck and tased not once, but twice. That incident triggered criminal charges out of Macomb County, meaning today, Player is a defendant in 2 different courtrooms for 2 different alleged assaults.
Of course, going to end up pleading not guilty, set this
Alleged assaults. We saw them.
matter for probable cause conference.
Well, James McMahon became Highland Park's chief after Player left the department. He requested that an outside agency investigate Player's tasing, which ultimately led to today's charges. Through his attorney, Dammeon Player declined comment. He was given a $10,000 personal bond and is not allowed to leave the state or possess any weapons. Again, a not guilty plea entered on his behalf.
Hard to see that behavior repeat itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all those dots connected. All right, thank you, Ross.
Thank you, Ross. So,
Topping our new
that's where we're at with this one. He
tasing, which ultimately led to today's
is a complete and prison.
charges. Through his attorney, Dammeon Player declined comment. He was given a $10,000 personal bond and is not allowed to leave the state or possess any weapons. Again, a not guilty plea entered on his behalf.
Okay, it must have been another one I was thinking about. Anyway, that's where we're at with this one. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Also, again, 85% of people that watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. You got your phone in your hand, got your laptop, click the button, we'll move along. Let me know what you think about this one, and I'm out.